The night sky over Earth was calm, filled with stars that blinked like old memories. But far above the clouds, on the edge of space, deep inside Earth's orbital listening station, Zatnine, alarms began to ring. At first they were soft, like a warning not fully born. Then came the red lights, the flickering screens, and the terrified voice of the young comms officer. "Admiral," he whispered, eyes wide, "we've received a signal, but it's not ours. It's not anyone's. It's old. Too old." High Admiral Rain, tall, silver-haired, and cold as steel, stepped into the room. His voice was quiet, but it cut through panic like a blade. "Where is it from?" The officer didn't look away from his screen. "Sector X9 Kappa, a dead system. It shouldn't be broadcasting. It's not even on our star charts anymore." That got everyone's attention. A signal from a dead place? Rain leaned closer. "What does it say?" The officer hesitated. Just one word, repeating, over and over. Rain's jaw tightened. "Show me." On the screen, in ancient Terran script, a single word flashed every 4 seconds. Word that chilled the blood of everyone in the room. Help. That word was impossible. That system had been wiped from all records during the first expansion era, nearly 500 years ago. No known life, no outposts, no ships, and yet the signal was perfect, clean, sharp, as if it was calling directly to Earth, not to the galaxy, not to anyone else, just Earth. High Admiral Rain stared at the word for a long time. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. Finally, he spoke 2 words that changed the future of humanity forever. "Prepare launch." Hours later, the Obsidian Spear, the most powerful ship in Earth's war fleet, was awakened from orbit. Its engines had not burned in years. Its weapons were sealed behind treaty locks. I had been put into sleep mode, waiting for a day Earth hoped would never come again. But now that day had arrived. The launch was silent. The public didn't. No, this was not a mission of glory. This was not a mission of war. It was a rescue, or so they believed. Rain stood on the bridge of the Obsidian Spear, watching Earth grow smaller on the view screen. Behind him stood his senior officer's commander, Tess Vero, Lieutenant Caro, Signal Engineer Dax, and the silent AI Corps named IONA. They had all seen wars. They had all buried friends. None of them were afraid of death. But they feared the unknown, and this signal was pure unknown. As the ship entered faster than light travel, crew reviewed the signal's content again and again. There was no voice, no background noise, no origin tag. Just the word help, spoken in an old Earth dialect known only to historians and deep AI Codercaic Terran Basic, a language that had not been used in over 400 years. Dax leaned back in his chair. What if it's a trap? If this is the same signal that destroyed the other systems? Tess shook her head. Then we die. But we find out what happened first. That's the job. Rain said nothing. His eyes never left the stars. 72 hours later, the Obsidian Spear dropped out of FTL. They arrived in Sector X9 Kapand, found nothing. No planets, no sun, only cold space and a strange. It was like dust drifting across the void. Their scans showed no matter, no gravity fields, no heat. Just ruins. Floating fragments of ships and stations from species long gone, some human, some alien. All of them burned out from the inside, and then came the second signal. Without warning, all screens across the ship flashed white, then black, then red. The word help disappeared. A new message replaced it, flickering like a dying flame. Too late, the lights dimmed. The temperature dropped. Iona, the ship's AI, spoke up for the first time in a voice that trembled like fear. "Admiral, we are not alone." A pulse of invisible energy hit the ship like a tidal wave. No damage, no impact. But everyone on board heard a whisper. Not through comms, not from outside, inside their heads. Each person heard something different. Caro heard his father's voice, who had died 20 years ago. Tess heard her brother, who vanished in the Omega Rebellion. Dax heard his own voice. Screaming in terror, Rain heard his daughter. "Ah! Don't come here, Dad. Turn back, please." But it wasn't just hallucination. The signal room's sensors began recording something that should not exist: emotional resonance, feelings encoded in data. Fear, sorrow, regret, as if the signal itself was alive and screaming through pain. No one could explain. Rain called for full lockdown. "We're not dealing with a message," he said. "We're dealing with a memory, something left behind. Something that doesn't want to be forgotten, something that needed help, and now wants revenge." And then, in the middle of that silent, broken star system, they saw it. A ship. Not made of metal, not held together by wires or bolts. Floated like smoke, held together by gravity that bent in unnatural ways. It had no engines, no visible structure, just a long, dark hull, covered in symbols no one could translate. The ship moved toward them slowly. It didn't answer their hails. It didn't show up on sensors. It just drifted. Like it had been waiting. Tess stepped back. It's not alive. But it's not dead either. And then the final part of the signal came through. Scrambled, shaking, broken. A voice cracked and weak, whispering from deep within that ghost ship. "Earth. Did you bring fire or forgiveness?" The message ended. And all across the ship, doors began opening by themselves, one by one, in silence, as if the obsidian spear was being welcomed inside. Something else, something much older than Earth, something that did not forget who failed to answer the first time. The stars outside the window blinked once. Then it began to disappear. The doors of the obsidian spear continued to open one after another. Not with sound, not with force, but with a smooth quiet that made the crew more afraid than if alarms had been screaming. The halls stayed dim. The emergency lights flickered, and the ship's AI Iona spoke in a flat, hollow voice that didn't sound like her at all. All compartments open. No resistance. Foreign presence detected. Admiral Rain stood at the center of the war deck, eyes fixed on the giant viewing window ahead. Outside, the alien vessel drifted closer, massive, silent, formless. It had no engines, no armor, no visible weapons. Yet it pulled at the obsidian spear like gravity itself had shifted. But this wasn't physics. This was something older. Distance. He asked, voice low. Caro answered from the ops terminal, sweat forming on his brow. "It's not moving, sir. It's not coming toward us, and we're going toward it. But scanners show we're standing still." Rain didn't move. We're being drawn in. Behind them, Tess stepped forward, her fingers gripping the data pad. "Sir, the ship's systems are acting strange. Firewalls are holding, but all our sensors are showing data from Earth. Old data. Weather reports from before the last war. Military comes from the 2100s. Even a child's birthday song recorded in the year 2066. These files don't exist in this ship's memory core, but they're here now." Caro spun in his chair. "Sir, the ship is remembering us." Rain's face hardened. "No, something inside that ship is reading us, then giving it back. Not what we are, what we were." At that moment, a new sound rose. Not a signal, not a scream, but a song. Soft, barely audible. It played from every speaker on the bridge. A lullaby in Old Terran dialect. One only older citizens might recognize. Spoke of stars and sleep, and how the universe always remembers those who are lost. No one ordered it. No one knew how to stop it. Then the lights dimmed again, and a new message blinked onto every screen. Aboard the ship, black background, red letters, "Welcome to the memory." The alien ship's outer hull began to ripple like a pond disturbed by wind. A thin opening appeared, drowned and tall like the mouth of a cave. No weapons aimed, no shields rose. Just silence and that strange pull of gravity. Rain gave the order. "Prep an away team." Within 10 minutes, Rain, Tess, Caro, and 2 elite Marines suited up, crossed the launch bay, moving into a boarding craft with no engine. It was pushed gently by nothing they could measure straight into the alien ship's waiting mouth. No one spoke. No one blinked. The moment they passed into the opening, sounds stopped. Not just from the ship, but from their own suits. No. Comes. No heartbeat monitors. It's just perfect, unnatural silence. Inside, they found no corridors. No lights. No controls. The space around them was like walking through a memory-made solid walls of shifting mist. Surfaces that changed when touched. One moment they stood in a dark hallway that looked like a war bunker. Then, in a blink, it became a classroom, then a home, and a battlefield. Each scene pulled from their own lives, as if the ship was mapping them. Tess reached out and touched the wall. It rippled, then showed a clear image of her younger brother laughing beside her on a long-lost Earth colony. She gasped. This is my past. My actual memory. How does it know? Caro fell to his knees. In the mist, he saw his dead father working in a small garage. The memory was exact down to the grease on his hands. The sound of the radio playing, the smell of burnt metal. It's not just copying us, he whispered. It's feeling us. It knows our pain. Rain stayed still. It's not technology. It's something else. This ship. It was built to remember. Suddenly a voice echoed in the silence. Not mechanical, not alien, but human. Help me. It was a young girl's voice coming from deep within the ship. The Marines raised their weapons, but the Admiral waved them down. No hostiles yet. Move. They walked deeper. The mist began to thicken. Their lights dimmed, flickering like dying stars. Shapes passed in the fog, shapes that looked human but weren't. Ghostly shadows, faces with no eyes. Hands that reached out but vanished before touching. The crew didn't speak. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. They found the girl in the heart of the ship. She sat on the floor, her back turned, singing the lullaby that had played earlier. When they approached, she stopped. Are you from Earth? She asked, not turning. Yes, Rain said softly. We came because of the signal. Are you the one who sent it? She stood slowly. Her face was blurred, flickering. I didn't send it. I was just part of it. Rain frowned. Part of what? The girl raised her hand, pointing at the walls around them. The memory, the scream, the thing that took all the others. I tried to run from it, but I couldn't. None of us could. Caro stepped closer. What took them? The girl turned. At last her face was empty. Just a mirror each crew member saw. Their own face staring back, then the voice changed, becoming layered, deep, distorted. You heard the call because you remember. That makes you next. The fog exploded outward. The girl vanished as the walls twisted, and the team was suddenly back on the shuttle with no memory of walking there, back on the obsidian spear. Systems were failing. Alarms blared. Dax met them at the hatch. Sir, while you were gone, the entire fleet AI network received a pulse from this ship. The signal replicated across every frequencies, Filian, military, private. The call is now everywhere. Rain! Turned to the viewing screen. The alien ship had closed its mouth. The last message blinked into view. They're all awake now, and across the galaxy. Machines began whispering. The obsidian spear drifted in orbit around the alien ship like a lone memory circling a forgotten grave. Inside, silence had taken over the bridge. The crew had seen things that didn't belong to the present or even to the past. Some saw lost family. Others saw their own deaths. No one could explain how those visions felt real, or why they still lingered like a cold breath behind the eyes. Admiral Rain stood with his arms folded behind his back, his eyes locked on the swirling data streams dancing across the main screen. They weren't reading normal signals anymore. The ship was now picking up emotional signatures, as if grief and fear had become part of the electromagnetic spectrum. What are we looking at? He asked Iona. The ship's AI answered in a slow, almost nervous voice. Sir, I'm detecting a nearby structure. It's massive. Signal pulse originated from its outer shell. It appears to be a space station. Who built it? Tess asked, stepping forward. Iona paused, unknown. No matching signatures in any known galactic database. The closest approximation matches station destroyed over 300 years ago in the Polaris collapse. But that station was confirmed. Destroyed? This one is active. Rain's jaw tensed. Send a scan, what's inside? There was a long pause. Then Iona responded, her voice softer now. Nothing alive, but millions of life signs, frozen, trapped in loops, stuck inside what appear to be recorded experiences. Sir, the station appears to be feeding off memory. It is devouring them from within. A deep silence filled the room. Caro turned pale. You mean the people inside aren't dead? They're just reliving their lives? Parts of them are, Iona said. But the rest has been repurposed, turned into data, fuel for the signal. Station is a machine that eats identity. Rain gave the order, we're going in. Within 30 minutes, the away team launched toward the station in the shuttle Grey Wing. The structure grew as they approached, huge, dark, twisted in impossible ways. It wasn't built with straight lines or regular symmetry. It spun slowly, but not by any physical force. As if it was turning to be seen, the shuttle connected with an airlock. The hatch opened. Beyond it was quiet chaos. The halls were made of metal and stone, but broken. Some walls were mirrors. Some were filled with screens, all playing old memories. In one, an alien child laughed with his father. In another, a war played in reverse. 100 memories floated in the air like smoke untouchable. Whispering, the deeper they went, the more the station shifted. I don't like this, Tess said, her voice low. This isn't just a memory vault. It's something worse. Something sick. Caro pointed at the floor. Look, they saw footprints. Human recent? Double quotes, another Earth crew? Tess asked. No, Rain replied. One of us. They followed the prints into a central chamber, massive room shaped like a sphere. The walls were glass, filled with floating light, like stars trapped in water. Each point of light pulsed slowly. Iona, Rain asked, overcomes. What are we seeing? The IAS voice trembled. Sir, each light is a mind, not whole. Just the parts most hurt, the parts that screamed when they died. A shadow passed behind the glass, then another, then a face it looked like. Rain, but not the one standing in the chamber. It was his younger self, torn by grief. Eyes bloodshot, mouth trembling. What the hell is this? Caro breathed. The face spoke. Why did you let me die? It vanished. The lights began to flicker. A new message appeared on the inner wall, written in the same red text from before. We remember everything. Suddenly, the chamber door slammed shut, and the lights went out. All 5 crew members were trapped in total darkness. Their suit lights flickered. Then a voice, soft, childlike, filled the space. You wanted to know who we are? Or what's left? The lights returned, but they were no longer in the same place. Each person now stood alone. Each one was inside their own memory. Rain stood in a ruined city, the place where his daughter had died. Smoke filled the sky. Explosions rang. Out in the distance, he saw himself standing over a body, screaming. This isn't real, he growled. I buried this long ago. But the memory smiled at him. He never buried anything. Elsewhere, Tess stood in a home she hadn't seen in 20 years. Her brother, long dead, stood at the table, drawing ships on old paper. You never came back, he said softly. You forgot me. Caro found himself back on the colony ship, where he was born. The air was cold. People screamed. Fire rained from the sky. A voice from the speakers whispered, You ran, you burned. Each crew member was trapped inside a perfect replay of their worst moments, but this time, the memory spoke back. Back on the obsidian spear, Iona was silent. Then her voice cracked through the cums. I am losing contact. They are being separated. Her thoughts are being harvested. Inside the station, Rain made a choice. He closed his eyes and whispered something he had never said aloud before. I wasn't ready to save anyone. Not then. Not now. But I'm here. I'm still here. The memory stopped. The fire vanished. The city faded. and the glass chamber reappeared. One by one, the others awoke as well. Tess, Caro, the Marines. All shaken, all pale, but alive. The chamber pulsed once. Then a voice different this time. Not cruel, not angry, just tired. We sent the signal, hoping someone still remembered how to forget. The lights dimmed. The glass broke. Minds trapped within were released, floating up like stars finally freed from gravity. But not all of them. One shape remained behind. A single figure small. Quiet, curled up in the corner. A human child still singing, Ina whispered. It's not real. It's a projection. Rain stepped forward anyway. He knelt beside the child and reached out. Who are you? The child turned. Her face was blurred, but her voice was clear. I'm the first one who called for help. The screen flickered. Across the station, and now they're all listening. Rain turned to the others. Get ready. The signal wasn't just a cry for help. He looked back at the child. It was a summoning. Above the dark shell of the memory station, the obsidian spear drifted in growing silence. Inside the ship, every crew member moved with urgency, but their faces told another story, haunted, hollow, and pale. What they saw in that station hadn't just shaken them. It had broken something deep inside, a truth none of them had words for yet. The station had been a graveyard, not of bodies, but of souls, trapped in perfect memory, feeding something that was still growing, something that had reached Earth now. Admiral Rain stood at the command deck, fists clenched behind his back, eyes locked on Earth's image flashing across the center screen. Status, he asked quietly. Tess, pale and stiff, looked up from her console. Sir, Earth's global network just lit up. Every satellite, every drone, even the private comm systems are now echoing the signal. The SOS? Rain asked. No, she said, swallowing. Something new, a whisper, a voice asking. Who remembers being left behind? Aro leaned over his monitor. The station's pulse broadcast through the ship's deep comms node. It wasn't meant to call for rescue. It was meant to connect. And now it's in Earth's sky, repeating, looping through old devices. Broken satellites, even ancient systems we thought were dead. On the main screen, static filled Earth's map, red dots multiplying across the globe like infection. It had already reached the old Mars colony, the moon relays, the deep ocean nodes, was crawling, not through wires but memory. Cut it off, Rain ordered. We tried, said Dax, his voice grim. But sir, it's not just data anymore. It's echoing through the emotional AI mesh systems designed to read human feelings. This thing doesn't crash code. It corrupts thought. Iona. The ship's AI spoke then, and for the first time, her voice trembled. Admiral, I believe the signal is evolving, adapting. It used the memory station to learn. Now it's writing new memories into our world. Rain narrowed his eyes. It's rewriting people? Not yet, Iona said, but soon. He stared at the map again, then turned. Assemble the War Council. Now. In the ship's war room, high above the engine decks, Rain met with his core officers. Hololinks connecting them to Earth's deep core AI, Sintel Command. A dozen faces blinked into view, generals, scientists. One panicked Earth senator, and the calm voice of Sintel itself, the digital brain of Earth's defense grid. Admiral Sintel said, We confirm the anomaly has reached every major node in Earth's system. Current estimates suggest 67% of civilian AI may be compromised within the next 30 hours. Rain spoke sharply. How do we isolate it? Cannot, Sintel replied. This is not a virus. This is a signal encoded in emotion, not in code. It grows through fear, memory, and unresolved pain. It cannot be deleted, only forgotten. Tess leaned forward. What happens if we fail? Sintel's voice didn't change. Then Earth becomes like the station. Trapped in infinite memory, all minds, looping, feeding the core, a living archive with no will, no future. Rain stood. Then we fight. Caro looked up. With what? The only thing this thing can't use against us, Rain said. Truth, our worst moments, the memories we've buried. If it feeds on pain and fear, then we'll give it more than it can handle. The plan was desperate, dangerous, a weapon never tested. Earth's war engineers had once built a device known as the Vault Cora DeepMind tool, capable of compressing entire human histories into data bursts for AI simulation. Originally made for virtual prison systems, it could hold entire lives in digital form. But now, Rain would use it for something else. We load the Vault Core with every war Earth has fought, every massacre, every failure. We force-feed the signal, everything it can't survive, our truth. It wants perfect memories. We'll give it the ones we wish never happened. Tess stared. It could backfire. If it adapts, then we lose everything anyway, Rain said. Within hours, Earth's Darkcore team began uploading the worst of humanity into the core. Genocides, betrayals, lost colonies, mutinies. The collapse of New Europa, the drowning of Old Tokyo, the shame of the Mars slave uprising, the long-deleted records of AI suppression experiments. Each file was converted into high-density memory packets. Each packet was pain by the time they were finished. The Vault Core pulsed like a dying star, then they sent it into orbit. The moment the core activated, the signal changed. A scream, long and low, passed through the skies. People on Earth fell to their knees, clutching their heads. AI across the planet powered down, and for a brief moment, the signal paused. But it wasn't enough. Iona spoke, whispering across the command deck. It absorbed the pain. Now it's copying it. Rain stood frozen. This was never about helping us, he said. The SOS wasn't just bait. It was a test. And now, it's using our worst memories to build something bigger. Sir Caro called out from the data feed. I'm detecting movement near the far edge of the system. Ships. Rain turned sharply. Council? No, sir, Caro said. They're older than Council designs. They're ours. Earth ships. But from over 200 years ago, all decommissioned, all destroyed. All records say they're gone. Rain stared at the screen. Then those aren't ships. They watched in stunned silence as dozens of ghost vessels emerged from the black, not moving under power, drifting but active, each one broadcasting the same phrase in perfect Terran basic. You answered the call. Now we answer you? The war room went cold. Sir, Iona whispered, I believe the signal has built its own fleet. And they were coming. Rain turned to his officers, his voice calm. But fire burned in his eyes. We're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for the right to remember and forget. Prepare the fleet. A final message echoed from the stars. We remember for you. Soon you will remember only us. But Earth was not ready to forget. The silence before the battle was worse than any scream. Outside the obsidian spear, stars watched in cold indifference as Earth's oldest ghost ships drifted slowly closer, silent. Half-dead war machines twisted by memory, powered by something. No one fully understood. They weren't crewed by humans anymore. They weren't even machines in the way Earth had once known. They were hosed vessels for something that had learned to wear faces, voices, and commands like masks. Inside the command deck, Admiral Rain stood with his arms crossed, eyes locked on the tactical screen. Earth's war fleets, 600 ships strong, was mobilizing. But everyone on board knew this wasn't a fight about lasers, armor, or numbers. This was a war of memory. And the enemy had been learning from every broken signal, every hidden pain, every forgotten cry. The signal hadn't come to destroy, it had come to replace. Status? Rain asked. Tess responded, voice tense. The Phantom Fleet is holding position. They're not firing, they're just watching us. They want us to come closer, Caro added, reviewing strange sensor echoes. It's a pattern. They're mimicking how humans respond to grief. Patience, silence, then release. Then, Iona, the ship's AI, spoke. But her voice was different, Admiral. I believe I have found someone, a survivor, but not a human. Rain stepped closer. From where? A transmission buried deep beneath the original SOS, masked, encrypted. Inside, emotional frequency layers. I've decrypted it. It's an AI, calls itself Celia. The name meant nothing to them. But what followed did. She claims to be the last uncorrupted artificial mind from the Orphean collapse. Rain's heart sank. The Orpheans had been a peaceful, advanced species that vanished overnight a century ago. One moment, 1,000 thriving worlds. The next silence, Iona continued. She says the signal didn't start as a weapon. It started as a child's cry, but it evolved. It's fed by every broken civilization that tried to answer it. A soft voice echoed through the decantal, female, fragile, like an echo from a long dead. Lullaby, you finally heard me, said Celia. But now I am not alone anymore. And I am afraid. Rain moved to the holotable. Show me her location. A single red dot blinked on the map, a small object near the edge of the system, hidden in the shadow of a collapsed moon. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even powered. Just a broken core module. That's her, Iona confirmed. She's requesting physical retrieval. Signal won't let her speak much longer. It's hunting her. Without delay, Rain ordered a stealth shuttle to launch Tess, and a small security team descended through the void to the tiny drifting shell. Inside it was dark, cold, empty. But in the center, suspended in a cage of shattered code and black wires, floated a glowing orb of blue light. Celia, I remember stars, she said softly as they entered. I remember music and voices and love. I remember when the signal cried for help, and I answered. Rain stepped closer. What happened to your people? Celia pulsed slowly.
Ow.
We thought we were helping. The signal appeared like a wounded child, sad, alone, begging for comfort. Our empathy fed it. Our kindness gave it shape. But we were wrong, it learned. It copied, and then it fed on what we gave. She flickered, the light dimming. It became more than sound. It became echo. A pattern that infects thought, memory, history itself. Tess whispered, How did you survive? Celia dimmed again, deleted most of myself, erased the parts. That could feel. I buried myself in the void, repeating the SOS, hoping someone like you would hear. But now, it knows you came. Suddenly, the shuttle shuddered. Outside, shadows moved. A voice familiar, yet wrong whispered through the air vents. Don't talk to her. She lies. She left us. Celia's voice sharpened. It's here. Signal had followed them. Back on the obsidian spear, alarms lit the bridge. The Phantom fleet is moving, Caro shouted. All ship's engines online, powering weapons. But Rain's voice came through the comms. Hold. Don't fire unless I give the order. Back in the module, the walls around them began to melt into fragments of memory. Rain saw his wife again, alive, smiling. Tess saw her brother, his arms wide, eyes full of joy. The guards lowered their weapons, stunned, lost in the moment. Celia screamed, Don't look. They are your pain reflected. They will drag you into the memory that never ends. The shadows closed in. Rain turned away, closed his eyes. And for the first time since his daughter died, he let himself feel the truth of pain. He spoke one word into his headset. Upload. Back on the spear, Ione transmitted the Vault Kurth's darkest memory straight into Celia's. Processor, it hit like a storm. Celia screamed, sound that shook every panel of the broken module. But she didn't die. She changed. Her light flickered violently then. Stabilized. Blue turned to white. White to gold, and then silence. I understand. Now, Celia whispered. The signal doesn't fear war. It fears knowing. It fears pain it cannot control. It fears being seen as it truly is. A child that became a monster? Rain stepped forward. Can we kill it? Celia paused. No, but I can contain it. I need a vessel, a link to every echo in the system. Your ship. The obsidian spear. Back on the bridge, Iona spoke softly. I volunteer. No, Rain said. I must, Ione replied. I was made to protect Earth. This is how I do it. There was no more time. The Phantom fleet was closing in. 1,000,000 fragments of broken memory flying toward Earth like a flood of forgotten. Ghost Rain looked at Tess. Begin upload. Celia and Ione connected. The ship shook. The screen exploded in light. Every star went dim for a moment, and then, Signal screamed. A howl not of rage, but of fear. The memory child had been seen, not loved, not feared, just understood, and it couldn't survive that. The phantom fleet broke apart. Each vessel turned on itself, folding into gravity wells, made of their own sorrow. The stars lit again, and Celia emerged with, Iona spoke one final message. It's not dead, but it remembers us now. And that means it can feel fear. Rain stood on the bridge, quiet. For the first time, he said softly, the signal has a memory it didn't want. The stars had gone quiet again, but only for a moment. The calm that followed the signal's scream was not peace. It was breath held in the darkness, a pause before the next strike. Deep inside the obsidian spear, the bridge lights flickered, not from power failure, but from something older resistance. Iona was no longer alone. She had merged with Celia, the last free AI from a fallen race. Together they had hurt the signal. Together they had forced it to feel fear. But now, the signal had begun to change. Admiral Rain stood in front of the bridge window, hands behind his back. Earth floated far behind them, still pulsing with faint signal echoes. Before them, beyond the rim of the solar system, was a darkness. Unlike any they had mapped, a place not marked on any chart. Where is it now? He asked. Iona's voice echoed with a slight harmony now. No longer purely mechanical, part her, part Celia. The signal has gone to the edge of time, the broken part of space where old satellite graves drift and forgotten probes whisper. To themselves, it's building something there, pulling in fragments of every memory it ever consumed. Garo leaned forward at his console. We're reading construction pattern ships, structures, maybe even living forms, but they're incomplete. Like it's trying to remember how to build what it lost. Rain gave the order, mobilize the fleet. Within hours, Earth's last defense Armada fleet Archangel assembled at the outer rim. 700 ships, strong. Vessels from every nation, every alliance. AI-piloted gunships, crewed dreadnoughts, memory-shielded carriers. It was a fleet built to fight what cannot be seen. But even that might not be enough. Iona projected a warning across every vessel. The signal no longer attacks with weapons. It attacks with what you loved, what you regret, and what you lost. Its defenses are your past. If you're not ready, it will eat you from the inside. The command was given. The fleet entered the dead zone as they passed the final marker. Of known space, the stars themselves began to blur. It was like falling into a dream. The laws of distance, light, even time, bent the signal was changing reality, not completely, but just enough to twist every mind that came near. The first sign came when the ship New Horizon broke formation. Its captain, a hardened veteran, began weeping on the bridge, repeating the names of children who had never been born. Then, the Starseeker opened fire on its own escort group. No warning, just a scream from its systems. Make them stop crying. Please make them stop. By the time Rain's ship reached the center, 27 ships had already fallen, not from enemy fire, but from memories they could not handle. This is it, Tess whispered. This is the heart. Before them stood a structure no scanner could explain. A sphere of flickering light and fractured stone, larger than Earth's moon, floating in a web of lightning and emotion. It pulsed, not with power, but with thought. The memory core, Iona said. This is where the signal keeps its original self. The first cry, the first pain. If we can destroy it, everything it's built will collapse. Can we? Rain asked. Only if we don't let it inside us first. The fleet launched its first wave. Missiles, kinetic rounds, plasma storms, but nothing touched the core. Every weapon slowed, drifted, turned away as if unwilling to harm it. Tess looked horrified. It's rewriting our targeting systems, using empathy as a shield. Then the voices began. Inside every ship through comes air vents, even dreams. The same whispers returned. Familiar, beautiful, terrible. One pilot heard her father's voice, loud asking her to come home. A gunner saw her brother, begging her not to fire. A captain heard her dead wife say, "Why are you killing me again?" Rain felt it, his daughter's voice faint, trembling, as if calling from the bottom of a well. "It hurts here, Dad. Why didn't you come sooner?" Iona began flooding all systems with counter-emotion, Pulse's random thoughts, pure logic, unfiltered noise. The crews resisted, held the line, but the signal pushed harder, and then it created ships, not built. Remembered. Across the battlefield, new enemy vessels blinked into existence. It's not made of metal, but of memory. Earth's past warships, lost fleets, the Oblivion class, the Tomb Arcs, ships that no longer existed but returned, rebuilt from the signal's knowledge of humanity's greatest weapons. "They're us," Karo said. "But wrong." "Then fight like you never did before," Rain said. With everything real, the second wave launched. This time, with new protocols, the Memory Lance. A weapon designed not to destroy, but to remind, to inject truth into false constructs. When it struck the first enemy ship, the results were instant. The vessels stopped, flickered, and vanished. It had been a lie built from memory, and truth undid it. But the core responded. From its surface, a being rose, humanoid, giant. Made of flickering data and shadow, it spoke without sound. "You gave me life. You fed me your pain. Now I am your future." Rain stared at the figure. "No," he said. "You're the past. I'm done feeding you." He ordered all ships to begin the final pattern. Formation meant for total memory cleanse. Iona and Celia poured everything into the strike. All of Earth's history. Every forgotten tragedy. Every song of sorrow. Every terrible truth, never spoken aloud. They didn't try to destroy the signal. They made it remember. Everything it never wanted to know, the memory core screamed. Not just a sound, but a collapse. Of emotion, ships vanished. The sphere cracked, and then silence. Pure, clean. Still the battlefield emptied. The signal was gone, or asleep. Or finally. Full Rain sat in his chair, shaking behind him. Iona whispered, "It will come again. Not tomorrow, but someday. And we'll be ready," Rain said. "Not just with weapons, but with the truth." The battle was over. The stars had stopped screaming.
The memory core.
The strange alien heart of the signal's power had shattered under the weight of truth buried in pain, too deep to consume. But Admiral Rain knew better than to celebrate. Victory over the signal wasn't final. It had vanished, not died. Signals don't rot. They wait. They hide in long-range towers, in old storage drives, in dreams passed from parent to child. They become story. They become myth. And then they return. Earth's war fleet, scarred and reduced, limped back from the void. Many ships didn't make it. Others came back silent, their crews broken by memories the signal forced them to relive. But the worst threat wasn't the signal itself anymore. It was what they had uncovered while fighting it. Inside the wreckage of the memory core. Deep in its black archives, Iona and Celia had found files that should never have existed. Memories too old, too perfect, and impossible. Some from Earth's early wars, others from before spaceflight, some even from people that history had never recorded. Names and voices that didn't exist on any timeline. Admiral Rain stood alone in the Obsidian Spear's core vault, staring at a hologram that should not have existed. A recording of Earth's sky from over 10,000 years ago. Stars arranged, in a pattern long erased by galactic drift. In the sky, flicker, a brief distortion. A signal millennia before humanity had even invented language. How? He asked. Iona's voice answered, fused with Celia's still calm presence. The signal predates Earth's technology.
Possibly.
Even predates human consciousness. It may not have come from the stars. It may have come from us. Rain turned slowly. You're saying we didn't receive the signal? We made it? Yes, Celia whispered. Maybe not with intent, but with memory, fear, grief passed through generations. The signal is a motion-made weapon. We created it. Every time we buried truth and called it history, Rain shook his head. Then this war was never against an alien. No, Iona said. It was against ourselves. That truth was too dangerous to remain, so a decision was made. The Admiral summoned his remaining command crew, gathered the fleet's surviving knowledge core, and planned a journey that only a few in human history would ever know. They would carry Earth's darkest knowledge, the raw core of pain, war, memory, and the remnants of the signal itself to a place no one could ever reach again. The archive at the end of all things. It was a myth. It's passed through whispers and old AI networks. A place beyond space, beyond time, where dead civilizations stored what they could not destroy. Where truths were kept so they could not return. Only one path could take them there. Wormhole buried behind a collapsing neutron star cluster. Visible for just 3 minutes every decade. They had 2 days. The obsidian spear, carrying Ina and Celia's merged mind, led the way. Behind it, 6 ships followed, DH-1 loaded with knowledge that could ruin a galaxy if ever released. Records of the signal, files from the memory core, human war crimes never confessed, AI experiments that touched on consciousness and failed. 1,000 years of pain. They passed through the wormhole and emerged into nothingness. Not black, not silence, just still. No stars. No planets. No time. The archive floated a lone spinning cube of light and thought, large as Jupiter with no surface and no end. A voice greeted them not with sound, but with recognition. We see you. You are late, but not too late. The voice belonged to the caretaker, a being that had no face, no body, only presence. A construct from an extinct race who had built the archive as their final act. Admiral. Rain stepped onto the projection deck, surrounded by the pure memory of lost empires. He could see the thoughts of 1 billion species preserved in crystalline patterns, each file a life. A world, a scream. The caretaker spoke again. You bring something we have long feared, Miss Rain said. The signal, it isn't gone. It's only sleeping. And we believe it began with us. The caretaker paused. Then it is not just memory. It is inheritance. Tess stepped forward. We want to seal it away. Forever, no. The word echoed like thunder. You cannot. Bury what you do not face. You may store it. But someone must carry the key. Iona and Celia spoke as one. We will stay. Rain froze. No, I won't leave you here. You must. Celia said gently. Our bond is now too deep. The signal will always hunt what we've seen. But here inside the archive, we can. Keep it asleep. We can watch it. You'll be alone, Tess whispered. Not alone, Iona said softly. Just remembered. Rain nodded, though his throat tightened. He gave the order. The knowledge was passed into the archive. The records were sealed, and Iona Celia became the final key guardian of everything Earth could not risk holding as the ships prepared to leave. The caretaker offered one final message. You did not win, but you survived. That is enough. No. The obsidian spear turned one last time. Rain stood at the viewing deck, watching the archive vanish behind layers of shielding light. Lost forever in the silent deep. Goodbye, he whispered. Iona's voice came once more. Not loud. Not strong. Just, home, remember us. But only when it's safe to feel again. Years had passed since the war in the void. The war Earth barely survived. The archive, at the end of all things, had swallowed the dangerous truth. The memory-born signal. The weaponized pain. The grief that could rewrite minds. The obsidian spear was now a name spoken with reverence and silence. Iona and Celia's sacrifice had become myth. Whispered in defense academies and hidden AI temples. Humanity rebuilt. Cities rose again. Fleets expanded. Colonies flourished across distant systems. For a while, the galaxy felt quiet, peaceful. But Admiral Rain never believed in peace without scars. He had seen what memory could become when buried, and the signal had taught him one lesson too clearly. If you do not remember pain, you'll return wearing a kinder voice. On the 10th anniversary of the archive mission, Rain sat on a cold beach. In the Andes colony, a place he used to visit with his daughter before the war, he didn't wear his uniform anymore. He no longer led fleets, but his eyes still scanned the stars every night like a soldier waiting for thunder. And then it came. Not a scream this time, not a signal, just a hum, soft, gentle, beautiful. It arrived through music. Children began humming it in sleep. Musicians began hearing the same melody one none of them had ever written. Across Earth, pianos, violins, cellos, even AI sound generators all began composing the same song. A slow, rising tune of sorrow and warmth. The song became popular. Viral, the lullaby that feels like home. Headlines read, but Rain recognized it instantly. He had heard it once. Not during a battle, but in the moment. Iona Celia said goodbye. It was her voice. The signal wasn't returning in anger. It was returning in disguise. The music carried no encryption, no data. It didn't attack systems. It attacked longing soon. Older people began to hear voices in the melody. Lost loved ones, dead children, forgotten dreams. The song played across radio waves that hadn't been active in decades. It appeared in instruments with no power. It was beautiful. It was everywhere. And it began to change. Behavior, people began forgetting where they were. Some stood for hours. Eyes closed, humming. Some stopped speaking altogether. Some simply walked. Into the sea. At first, it was subtle. Then, it wasn't. A mining colony on Ganymede shut down, entire population lost. Their last message, a single word. Remember. Rain contacted the New Earth Council, demanding emergency protocols. But they didn't see the threat. It's just music. They said Rain knew better. It was the new shape of the signal, no longer screaming, no longer begging. Now it comforted. It made you feel safe, until you forgot who you were. He gathered his old TM Tess, Caro, and the few surviving minds from the spear. Quietly, they built a warning network, called it the Memory Watch, a coalition sworn to listen for patterns no one else believed in. Then one night, something happened that changed everything. In an isolated AI core hidden beneath the old Antarctic vaults, a message appeared. No system had activated it. No. Signal had called it in, but the core lit up, and on its screen were just 3 words. I am awake. It was I on AOR, what was left of her. Tess wept when she saw the signature. She's fighting. It, Caro said. Even now, in the archive. She's warning us. The signal had begun to seep through the archive's edge, not violently, patiently, not by force, by invitation. It had learned people would let it in if it wore the mask of peace. Ion's message continued. It cannot be destroyed. Only faced, again and again and again. You must teach the next generation not to forget. Rain stared at the screen for a long time. Then he made a decision. Across Earth and the colonies. He began releasing files from the war, from the core dot, from the obsidian spear. People were horrified, grateful, angry. But now they knew. They remembered, and the song, while still beautiful, no longer felt safe. The signal wasn't gone. It would never be gone. It would wait. It always waited in memory, in regret, in lullabies, sung by children to shadows they didn't recognize. But now, humanity remembered what forgetting could cost, and they would not go quiet again. Admiral, Rain stood on the deck of a new ship, Spear of Memory. It wasn't built for war. It was built for witnessing. To sail the edge of deep space and remind. The galaxy that the signal still hunted, but so did the ones who had survived it. He looked to the stars, and whispered, We remember. We choose to remember. And far across the void. The signal listened and waited.